Hello, everyone. I have to remind myself to slow down a little bit tonight. There are some people that I get very excited about and about being alive. And welcome to my dear friend, Yasodhara Romero Fernandes.
Hello. Thank you, Rachel, for bringing me on and on this special day today.
Yeah, exactly. And before you came on, I read you the whole theme of our little chat. I would like to be known as an intelligent woman, a courageous woman, a loving woman who teaches by being.
Wow. I love how that's phrased. I would like to be known. There's no need to prove. It's more like a demand of how we can choose to create ourselves in the world.
Totally, totally. And just a little bit of background information. So how come I asked Yasso? I call her Yasso. How come I asked Yasso to have a conversation with me was a few years ago. I had met you in Slovenia and you had become a 3-day body facilitator. And I was still trudging. Remember? We were at
Yes.
the rooftop and I was still trudging. Oh, when am I going to become a 3-day body facilitator? And you were like, Rach, just do it. Just do. And I was sitting in my bed at home in Ireland and I was scrolling at my Facebook and I saw you all over the world. And I was like, oh, more travel, more people, more movement. And so you're one of the people that inspired me to really become the 3-day body facilitator and also a specialty facilitator, which is access consciousness as specialties. And the reason these specialties are created is so that you can look at the limitations you have in regard to your voice in the world, in regard to your confidence in your own money, business, entities. There's all different aspects of this. And so first of all, thanks for that, because you're a woman who inspired me that I could have a greater life. And by seeing you jetting all over the world, that gave me the courage to go, hang on a second, if Yasso can choose this, I know. Yeah. I
I
know.
could do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the part two to this is I was sitting down with Rachael, who works with me full time, as you know, and generates everything with me. And I said to him, we were sitting having a cup of tea, and I said, who can I ask to have conversations? Very strong women that really went for what they desire. And I was like, oh, yeah, so. And so what is your demand of yourself to be? Because you're relentless.
People say me that like I'm relentless and I'm aggressive, and I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah. You're when you want something, you're like a lioness. Like you're
I'll have it.
demand. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's I'm not always, so there is also like, I think we have to realize also, like, for ourselves, we have to realize you never really see the whole training run of where, like, before the leap. So you'll see the leap and then you'll see kind of the results. And so for me, very often I don't even realize like how I have to remind myself of like, okay, like what I am creating and the choices I am
Oh,
making.
yeah.
Because like there was always like, for how many like also of you watching this, there will always be like the moment you arrive somewhere, it's already like, it's basically the departure for a new destination. And that new destination, if you are like somebody who desires more, no matter where you are right now, right? Because maybe you are right now in a spot where you desire more, but where you are in this place where you're like, I don't know if I can have it, or it's so hard, or but you still desire for more. There is this place where like the new place where you're departing, or the new space, it's often not existent yet. So it's
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
vague idea that you cannot really share with anyone, because they'll be like, why would you want that? Or like, well, whatever you're doing is weird, or whatever you're looking at, well, okay, have fun. So it's constantly like kind of moving through a blank space.
Thanks so much for saying this, because now I get, as I was scrolling down and seeing you creating this all over the world, I hadn't had that space opened up, for me by someone else, someone else. And so that matched the energy of what I was looking to, what I wanted to have as my living. Okay, it matched the energy, because I knew I didn't want to be, and I'm going to say this, my point of view at the time is I don't want to be stuck in Ireland all the time. And I genuinely didn't. It was boring for me. And so by you willing to go on the unknown terrain, because like consciousness is, you don't have this compass, like you have a compass of knowing, but there's no turn right, turn left, turn. It's more of, is that the energy that I would like to live? Yes. Okay. And so there's this trust in yourself to go, that you have and that I have now. And you said something brilliant. I can only have confidence in it when I trust that knowing.
Yeah. Because there is no solidity to knowing, there is no plan to knowing, there is no path to knowing. The only path to knowing is that you're creating that path. And so it's like step by step by step by step by step by step. And I don't know how that's for you, but for me, it's still like, because like that path always, like, it's always different. It's always, one thing I know by now is that it's always greater. But that took me years to get like, wow, I'm never going to choose less, ever. That's just not in my, it's not on my diagram. But it took me years to get that even if something looks less, or I'm going to like jump and like seems to fall, it like, okay, are you willing to know that whatever you're choosing will always be greater? And like one way to look at
it, and it has to be greater. It, like, for me, it's like I've got really arrogant in my consciousness. It's like, I'm not living like this. Like I'll be like, I don't have to live like this. I can actually choose, And I didn't have that 11 years ago. I didn't have that. I don't have to live like this. I have another choice. I'm part of a universe that supports my growth, my awareness, my joyful expression of life. And so I love also what you say about the piece of self-acknowledgement, because for me, like, something can change in a year and it's still not enough for me, because I always know there's more. But I've got to be aware too, to also reflect and acknowledge. You said to me before we pressed record, hey, I'm watching you going, hey, look at her go,
yeah.
And I was like, huh?
Yeah.
So if you're on here and something has changed, whether you have a desire for more change, but if something has already changed, please acknowledge that, because
You have to.
You have to.
You have to, because I only like get that kind of, I'm starting to get that now, how much I destroyed by not acknowledging. And I think like the most
listen to what Yaso just said. I am now starting to get how much I destroyed by not acknowledging, because in the act of acknowledgement, that is the path to receiving more of you and more of what you're capable of generating. And also in the acknowledgement exercises, in anything I create, I put an acknowledgement underneath it. It also builds your confidence in your own self.
I saw your board, and that has been such a great inspiration. I don't know where I saw that. You showed that somewhere in a video or somewhere in a picture or somewhere, where you actually showed like, okay, this is what I'm asking for this one, and next one, and next one. And I was like, wow, like you and Tori are really sticking to a plan for future.
Yeah.
And like, thank you. Like, that's for, do you wish to say something more about that? Maybe like how is that working without like making it like a solidity or a conclusion, but this expansion?
Well, just let's even take, this is so funny, because let's even take the month of March, 3 things got cancelled and 2 new things popped up. And so the basic priorities in my world is that I actually live knowing that I have a choice and that I can have laughter as part of my day. I know this sounds so simple, but that's
your number one.
That's my number one.
It's not my number one. That's so cool to see. Like, yeah, but I see you do it like that. That's really consistent in your world, like that joy and that choice for joy.
Yeah, if I don't have joy, oh, I'm a miserable, you know what.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I have to be honest with myself enough to know that enthusiasm is what generates everything. And so I'll be grateful for the awareness of, I can't remember what I was supposed to have this weekend, but anyway, it didn't get created. And so one of the things is that I always know that something greater will show up, because if it doesn't show up, then it's just not the right time, or it's just not true for me. And I trust consciousness, because either you're trusting or you're not. There's no
back and forth. Yeah.
There isn't. And so for me, I'm fierce in, I am going to live in a world where I will have my kindness, my sexualness, my caring, my gentleness. And because I took everyone else's judgments to create me as judgment, which is the very thing I'm not. I am not willing to create myself as the judgments that I'm not for anyone or anything ever again.
Wow. Like, I think for people that are listening to this, they will have to scroll down again to listen to it. Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. And so if that's the backbone for me is oneness, and consciousness is choosable in every moment. Whereas for me, I had bought that the judgment was me, and it's not. And so when I really got that oneness and consciousness is available, and that I can enjoy being here with you right now, that's a choice. It determined every single creation in every moment.
Wow.
And that has to be, for me, that has to be the way that I walk. For you have things that is integral for the way that you walk, you know what I mean? And so I reckon my sense is, as women, if we acknowledge what's actually priority for us, you know, which is, for me, caring about what I care about, you know, and being relentless in that, then your whole life will become about caring.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting that you say that, because that's been one of the elements where I've really been looking at what does that actually means for me. And like, it's been this element where I thought I had to have a whole lot of things in place before that could actually start or get unearthed. And then I was like, wow, what if it's the way around? What if I start to choose to actually look at all the elements that I require, no matter what they are? It doesn't really matter what the elements are that we all need. It's just like, if you're going to put them away because you have a judgment about them, or because you shouldn't be having them, or because it's not something you got through your upbringing, like, are you ever going to succeed at what you're here to create? And it's really interesting. Like, since a few months, I really got like, wow, how much frustrated I got if I wouldn't get it from other people. And it took me a while to get like, yeah, but wait a minute, like, it's not about them. It's about me starting to make this choice, and then also to see like, okay, so who is willing to create more of that in the world? And some people will, and some people have. Like, I've met a lot of people over time that don't even have that for themselves. And so rather than being angry, I started looking at, okay, where can I start implementing more of that? Where am I not being that? And so in like, in the area of, like, in all areas of our lives, like, you know, there is like this financial area, which for a lot of people, like, it's more need and like taking than actually caring. like our bodies, like how much in this reality people don't care about their bodies. And that's been something really, for many years, I couldn't figure out what it was to have a body, how to be with a body. And then one day I started to get, wow, like what is it that I'm actually aware of with bodies?
Yeah.
That might not really exist yet on the planet. And it was so simple, because like one of the things that I love with bodies is just putting my hands on them and be like, hey, no matter what the past of that body is, no matter if they've been like going to surgery but actually ended up in a butchery and just like being completely destroyed, like my basic thing is like just being like, hey, how are you, body? And so that was something like, what is it then? What is our path? That is, it's almost like walking through the desert, when you walk through the desert, like even like after you, a lot of that pathway kind of like is not tangible anymore. Although it allows people to actually get somewhere, because the sand will kind of form over time. But it's not that you're going to create a clear pathway which allows followers. It's more like this inspirational pathway to a new horizon. And what if that's more of a different future, that we're here to walk on the planet, not like one where you create a path, another one can follow, but more like, hey, this is what's available.
Totally. And I love that, because what you're actually saying is, wherever I am, I'm valuable. Not why am I here? I'm at home in the Netherlands with you. And what's the value? We get to discuss what actually is important for us. We actually get to have our point of view. We actually get to state that this is what's priority for me. This is what I want to care about tonight, and so you can play with this. I would say come away from why am I here and take a look at what's the value. When Yasso was walking through the desert, you're one of the people. When I went to Saudi a few times, I didn't go to the desert because I was like, eh. And then I went and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I had some type of a weird refusal to the desert or receiving. And so I love how you use that analogy, because it got me to look at, where is it that I'm not receiving the change, and where am I not valuing what's being offered and what I'm being invited to.
Yeah. Wow. And we're like, that's one of the things I love about traveling. Like, and one of the things I love about traveling, and one of the things that I love about like the area of working with entities, because like a lot of people think like, oh, what's this whole entities thing? But it has been one of these greatest gifts also with traveling, because there's always like this gift of a history like dripping through the present and the future. And so you can either choose to only like take into account the present, and then just like be a watcher of the past, and an eventual like wisher or refuser of the future. But like if you allow yourself to have access to all times, there is such a greater availability of energies and
More of you.
more of you, but also more contribution. And a lot of that is what I've been receiving from entities that would actually like pull me into a country, or just like, you have to come and you have to see this. And so I would be like, I have to see this. And I wouldn't even realize like, why do I have to see this? Why do I have to go there? And people would tell me like,
that's something you're brilliant at. Like that is something that you are brilliant at that,
Isn't it dangerous there? People will ask me, and I'm like, is it dangerous there? I'm like, oh, I'm like, but if you're willing to have your awareness on so many more things, and I'm not saying like neglect, like eventual risk, or like, it's more like, are you willing also as a woman, but as a being on this planet, to have all awareness and to receive the gifts that are there to be, that are given to you.
Yeah. It's so funny. You talk about entities. I was in Jeddah, and I heard all entities from Medina talking to me, And I didn't know the lady who took us on the trip was actually had a farm in Medina. Okay. And so I come back to wherever I came back to, or, you know, and I said, hey, the city of Medina was talking to me and all the entities. And I was like, I will come. You've just got to like support me and contribute to me. And then I get a call off a friend of ours, Dr. Iqbal in Kuwait. And she's like, hey, can you come and do a body class with me?
Yes. So awesome. She's becoming a facilitator. Oh, in Medina? Oh my goodness. I didn't even know you were like, are we allowed to go in there if you're not like
You are now. You are since about 9 months ago. And so this is what, and the reason that I picked this as an example was that I had to look at like I'm a Christian, so I actually am allowed, it's only the mosques that you're not allowed to go into. And so this is where you require information when you're
wow, because
traveling.
2 years ago I actually drove from Jeddah to Riyadh because I love the desert and I love seeing a lot of countries by land also because it's always such a different perception to move through a country with your body by land. Also I love it by air too, but like we had to drive like a whole, I think we had like 1 hour of like driving around Medina and Mecca because as a Christian you couldn't even drive through it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, that's evolution. So cool.
Wow.
And so this is what we're saying in that, you know, care for yourself in education, you know, what we said at the start, be educated, educate yourself, empower yourself so that you can have clearer choices. And anything you would like to say to finish with our conversation, two ADD chicks that jump all over the world in 20 minutes?
Well, what is it you know must happen? And this is like a bit of a like question where you could go and trip yourself out and just like go into a lot of force. And I'm gonna invite you to actually go into asking that question and maybe like let that triple like, what if you gave yourself like a few years even?
Yeah.
To start picking up and receiving the awarenesses that match your being.
Oh, that is so much loving and caring in its growth of change of, you know, if you have something that isn't working for you now, that you gave yourself 2 years to change it, there's so much allowance and space in that. And for me, there's only true change can occur in that space of allowance that you just described. Yeah.
It won't be a waste of time, promise.
No, it won't, truly. Thanks for jumping on. We haven't talked in a while. I missed you. The last time was on a train when we were coming back from Paris. And yeah, I just adore you, and thanks for being in my world. And yeah,
thank you, Rach. Thank you for everything you're creating and choosing, and happy Women's Day.
Yay, it's great.
It's one woman this lifetime. Yes.
Yay.
Let's get spoiled.
Yay. Bye everyone.
Bye.